Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again today. Now, if you haven't seen any of the previous videos, I'll just recap quickly where I am at the moment. I covered the removal of the plastic cover from here, the disconnecting of the ignition coils, the removal of the wiring harness out of the way so that you can have good access to those spark plug channels. All of this, first the idea was to inspect for any moisture that may be trapped under here or any moisture related problems, and then the next step would be to change the spark plugs. So that's where we are now. By the way, I noticed here when it comes to the moisture problems, um, I noticed that this harness right here where it comes in, there's a little slot, and this slot is not insulated in any way. There's no rubber sort of sealant or anything like that there. And even though there's a cover on top, I suspect that moisture does get in through here, and that's why it could just air evaporation would start sort of condensing in this corner. And once moisture is under the cover, it won't have an easy way to get out. So I suspect this is the weak point of the whole design. This is where moisture little by little comes in, and then it just stays underneath. My car didn't have much of a problem there, but if your engine is older or if you haven't opened this in a while, it's something you may want to check. Now, before I take the spark plugs out, there are a couple of things that I wanted to sort of ensure. So my thinking was, well, what if in those channels, I mean, they look clean, but what if in those channels I have small pieces of sand or small metal shavings or any other type of debris which is loose, and once the spark plug gets pulled out, that debris could very easily fall into the cylinder. Now, at that point, when you start the engine, the debris will eventually either burn off or make its way out through the valves, but until that happens, it may scratch up your cylinder walls, right? And you definitely don't want that. So my idea was, okay, what can I do to clean up any debris that's inside those channels? Even if I can't really see much, I mean, they look clean, but what could I do to sort of minimize that risk? So my first thought is I want to vacuum, right? I want to get a vacuum hose in there and pull out anything I could. So here's what I set up. Shop vac hose. At the end of the shop vac hose, I have this little plastic funnel all taped up. At the end of the funnel, I have one of those see-through hoses. These are used for bleeding brake lines. So this is sort of the hose that I'm using. I had to warm up the hose with a heat gun to be able to slide it on top of the funnel here. So this connection actually worked out pretty good. And once that was in place, this end of the hose, when I turn on the vacuum, this end of the hose creates quite a bit of suction. So with this, I was able to go in here and go all the way down around the spark plug, the top, the side, the bottom, and vacuum up any sort of debris that could be there. So this worked really well. After that, what I thought is, okay, I want to, what's the right term? Maybe sort of wash those metal walls in there and the area around the spark plug. Now, wash, I mean, I'm not talking about dishwasher detergent or anything like that. What I used is brake cleaner. And now this stuff, this is a very strong cleaner. It works great for metal and degreasing metal and metal parts. You definitely, like, one thing or a few things to look out for is maybe most importantly, you do not want this anywhere near your paint. You don't want to spray it on paint. You don't want it to drip on paint. If that happens, you need to wipe it off right away, immediately. Otherwise, you're going to ruin your paint. Now, the other thing is, this is not ideal for plastic or rubber. It would cause them to deteriorate prematurely. So don't get this on plastic and rubber. For metal parts, it's great. So when I sprayed that, I made sure that none of it goes here on the plastic. The content of that can only went inside where the metal parts are. So the brake cleaner actually evaporates pretty quickly on its own, but once you get it down there, it will pool. It will pool at the bottom, and it will take a long time if you just wait for it to evaporate on its own. So after I sprayed, I wanted to sort of help that liquid to come back out. So what I did was piece of paper towel, tear it into 4 strips, and then I have this 14 gauge electrical wire that I folded in this fashion. And what I do is I would put the wire here. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. And then I would create sort of this concoction. You know what, let me put the camera to the side and then I'll be able to show you better. Let me just put this here. There we go. Okay. So I would put the wire like this, and then with this piece I would now go in, push it all the way to the bottom, in between the spark plug and the wall of that metal cylinder. Push it all the way down, and I would leave it for a few seconds. The paper would actually suck up and absorb the moisture, and then I would just pull it out, right? And when I do that, I would notice that the bottom is all wet because the brake cleaner was absorbed into the paper. And if you have some dirt in there, some oil, grease, or anything like that, that would come out onto the paper as well. So that works pretty well. You probably would want to do 4, 5, 6 of those per channel. This is probably the longest part of the process, but in my mind, it's worth it. You may think it's overkill. To me, it made sense, so I did it. Again, very simple materials. This is not really pricey or anything like that. You probably have these things laying around at home. And once I did that, I gave it a few more hours. Sorry, had a camera malfunction for a moment. What I was saying is that once I absorbed all the liquid with the paper and this little sort of tool, I gave it a few more hours for the brake cleaner to completely dry and evaporate. And after that, I vacuumed again with the vacuum cleaner just in case. I vacuumed again. And now I have sort of this. Let me see if I can focus down there. There we go. I have this condition which seems relatively clean. I can't really do much better than that at this point. And in a way, now I am ready to actually remove the old spark plugs without worrying too much that any debris would fall into the cylinders. Another thing that I would actually want to do is once I pull out the spark plugs, I would want to go in there with a scope and take a look inside the cylinders, which again, if I have any debris around, once this is all open and I can see into the cylinder, if I have any debris remaining around there, as I'm putting the scope in and pulling it out and maneuvering it and turning it left and right and so on, again, there's a higher chance for that scope to just push the debris into the cylinder. So anyways, they are as clean as they can get, I think, at this point, and I can go ahead. That would be a separate video, but removing the spark plugs and then checking the cylinders as well. All right, I hope this was useful. Again, just to recap, the hose for vacuuming up those channels connected to the shop vac. And then step 2, brake cleaner with a bit of paper towel and this copper wire to collect whatever has pooled there at the bottom. Alright folks, best of luck in your projects. I hope you got something out of this video. Take care.